Hello, I'm Sam Jahari. Good afternoon, all. Welcome to allpointstv.com. I've been thinking a lot this week about, how we got here. How did we get to Briona's legacy? And I'm going to have to go back in time to the early 1990s. And again, my name is Sam Jahari. I am of the Druze faith. And at the time, I was dating a young woman that I was struggling with, that I really cared a lot for this woman. I loved her very much. But in our faith, we were supposed to marry our own. And the only way that you can be a Druze is you're born into it. It's not like you can convert over or whatever. Now, the best way that I can explain to you what the Druze faith is we have 7 Bibles, not just one, and they all come from the Bible. They come from the Quran, and they come from Judaism. And at the time, I really cared for this woman, and we had been dating about 4 years. And to be honest with you, at the time, I just felt like, I wanted to give up on who I was or my faith. And I thought, I could do this. But in the long run, I couldn't. And I was starting to push this girl away from me. And it was more like I wanted her to break up with me or something. I couldn't understand the feelings that I was going through. I couldn't hang on to her, and I couldn't, and I didn't want to let her go, put it that way. So at the time, it was, I think it was 1991, and we had broke up. And no, it was actually, it was late 91, I believe. And we had broke up, and I was pretty heartbroken. I was looking for comfort, I guess. And a buddy of mine and we went out to Mr. G's Lounge, back on I think it was Saginaw Street. But anyways, as we're there drinking, trying to forget my sorrows and stuff, through the night, I met this pretty young lady. This lady was, as we talked longer into the into the night and stuff, and she was celebrating her freedom as I was celebrating mine, but her freedom was different. And when she told me that she had just got out of prison, I didn't believe it. Here's was this beautiful young lady that, I guess in my eyes, she didn't look like a criminal, And as we talked, I asked her, what were you in prison for? And she was dating an individual that was selling crack or cocaine. And of course, she wanted to be right in the action because, you see, she was an addict also. And he got busted, and they both went down. Well, she served 5 years. And at the time, even though she was beautiful and stuff, I was still hung up on the girl that I'm no longer with. We had been together for 4 years and stuff. So as we got, to knowing each other and stuff, I felt sorry for her. I didn't feel like she had a good, solid family background. And, she went to prison. She was 18 years old. And here she was 23. And I think at the time I was 31, 32 years old. Because I was 9 years older than her. So, as we got to know each other and stuff, it just took on like a friendship. And I'd pick her up. She loved Taco Bell. She was very simple. So I'd take her. She needed to go shopping or something. I'd give her a ride, or I'd hang out with her. At the time, I had been in a bad car accident, and I wasn't working. I was on workman's comp. I was going to a meeting, and I was hit from. I was stopped at a stop sign, and somebody reamed me from behind. So I had back problems. There was a lot of pain. I had like 3 herniated discs in my lower back. So, at the time, the doctors was giving me Vicodin, Xanax, different kinds of medications and stuff. And for me, I was trying to survive. I didn't really care for this medication. I had a good friend of mine that his wife, she was addicted to pain pills. So really, I would sell him my script, everything that I had at the time. I believe in life that we all have skeletons in our closets. We all do things in our life that we're not really that happy with ourselves for doing. But I believe you can't run away from yourself. And I think in life, we pay for our sins, and we're rewarded for our good things, that we do in life. Why do I tell you this? At the time, didn't really know what addiction was. It was more, thought it was just a party scene or a party life. I didn't really care for Vicodins or the pain pills, but I did like to smoke weed at the time, and I felt that was a lot better than the muscle relaxers or even the pain pills than taking the Vicodins and stuff. So anyways, as me and Tina are getting to know each other, and we're hanging out, I remember this one time we went out to dinner with this friend of mine and his wife, and I remember this so clearly. It was just we were at a I can't remember if it was like Red Lobster or just a real nice fine dining place, I guess. And I remember my friend's wife. She kind of passed out right into her plate. And for the first time, I seen what my actions was doing. And I told my friend at that point, I said, listen, I'm sorry, but I don't care where you get these for her, but you're not going to get those from me. And I guess I'd just rather be without the money than after I seen that scene. And it really became reality to me, this was that he was getting this from me. And, she didn't take just one pain pill or 2 pain pills. She would take, like a half a script, 15 of them at one time or something. And it was just a not, I didn't get the, how it made, what was so good in that you're just nodding out. So anyways, from there on, it was, I never got rid of my scripts again. As me and Tina, we hung out. I remember this one day we was back in my, I had a mobile home, and we were there, and she was talking about her back hurt or something, and so I offered to give her a massage. And as I was giving her a massage, now we've been hanging out for about 2-3 months. Tina always talked about her boyfriend that was in prison. She'd go out to see him, take him stuff and stuff like that. And that was no biggie, But anyways, as as I was giving her a massage this day, she just kind of hopped up and she said, "Hey, you want to scrub?" And now she's a beautiful woman, got a beautiful body, and she said that, and it was like I couldn't get my clothes off fast enough. Um, well, we hang out, and of course, we would have sex. I think about 2 months as we're hanging out, and now sex is happening. This one day we were having sex, and I was wearing the rubber, and the rubber broke, and my daughter Briona was conceived, and when she told me she was pregnant, here, even though Tina wasn't, I didn't think she was using at the time or whatever, it scared the hell out of me. And, I had asked Tina to have an abortion, and she said nope. And I was kind of like relieved, and I was excited about that she was going to have my baby. But I was also terrified, of Tina relapsing or falling back into the scene because, I knew that her ex-boyfriend was going to be coming out, within 3-4 months or whatever. And, I didn't know if she was going to fall back into that scene. So anyway, me and Tina, we hit it off, and now it's more, I'm trying to be a good friend. I really care about Tina, but now I'm worried about my child. So, at the time, I think I said, "Do you want to get married?" And she said, "Hell no." And I was like relieved, that she said no. And I told her, I said, "Listen, you're having my baby, and just know that, her dad will always be there. And if you happen to fall or, you relapse or anything like that, that I would always be here for her." And, she said yes, of course, and, we ended up, I ended up getting an apartment for us. And, she, I'd take her to her doctor's appointments and stuff like that. And it was pretty cool, we're becoming more girlfriend and boyfriend, I guess. But through it all, I think she was about 5 or 6 months pregnant. Her ex-boyfriend comes out of prison. And, at the time I was, now I believe I'm working for Tom Snacks. I was delivering snacks at the time or something. And I happened to have been going by his house, and I seen her car coming out of his subdivision. So, when I came home, I asked her about it. She didn't deny it. She said, he came out of prison, and I just stopped by to say hello, whatever. But, I don't know what was going on with him. And I didn't really care what was going on with him. All I cared about my child, and, giving her an opportunity to do the right thing. Giving her the opportunity to be a great parent. And Tina was very, very clean. And when Briona was born, she was just, she loved being a mom. The night that Briona was born, at the time my brother-in-law, he had a teen club. And there was a big fight, and trying to break up the fight, my thumb was like sprained. So when I came home, there was a note on the kitchen table that she had gone into labor and she went to the hospital. So as soon as I got home and read that, I came right to the hospital, and it was like at this time it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. So when I got there, she was having I think contractions every two, or she was dilated to two or something. So it wasn't. They said it was going to be a long night. So I pulled up one of these chairs or cots or something, and I laid down. And every now and then you could hear screaming from the pain, and I was, hey, breathe, Tina, breathe, And sure enough, Briona was born later on in that evening. So I remember this nurse that Tina and this nurse just did not click at all. And I remember this one time she was talking about her back pain or whatever, and this nurse was trying to rub her back, and I was standing by her, and she grabbed my thumb, the thumb that I had sprained, and she's like, here, you don't do it. And she grabbed my thumb. Sam, do it, show her how it's done or something. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in pain at the same time, and I know she's in pain, so I'm trying to massage her back. But anyways, when it came down to Briona being born, this nurse, boy, she came up big, and she was great, And what was funny is after the baby was born, and they took Briona to, it was in the same room, but they had like a little bed with a light warmer or whatever, and they cleaned her up and stuff. And as soon as she came out and they took her to this, I went over there and I put my finger in her hand, and she just hung on to me. And I told her, I said, I'm your daddy. I'm always going to be here for you, And it was a great, great feeling. Well, through all of this, we ended up, I think we lived together for about 10 months or so. And we didn't get along, because I think she was still seeing her boyfriend, and she was in love with this guy. And, that was her first love, and that was her weakness. And so anyway, she ended up moving out on her own. And I had an opportunity to go to New Orleans at the time. I was looking at getting into business with a cousin of mine. So, I came to her and I told her, I said, listen, I have an opportunity to have a business in New Orleans. I would like you and Briona to come, and hey, if we make it, we make it. If we don't, I'll put you up in your own apartment or whatever. At least I'll be close to my daughter. And she agreed, So we went out to New Orleans, and a couple months into it, I come home one day, and her and Briona were gone. And at the time, they had went to her brother's in Tennessee. So, a couple days had gone by, and I went over there, and I ended up bringing her and the baby back. A month later, the same thing. She disappeared, and this time she had brought Briona back to Flint, or back to Michigan. Come to find out that Briona, or Tina, had rented a home from her dad out in Mount Morris, and at the time it was like the business end of it in New Orleans. I just couldn't work. I didn't want a business anymore. All I wanted to do was I wanted to be close to my daughter. So I think I had a 6 months lease. I ended up leaving there like 1 month earlier and came back. And well, I'd move in and out with into the home, so I could be close to Brianna. And at that time, I found out that Tina was going to the methadone clinic. So I knew she had relapsed, and supposedly she's trying to get clean by going to this methadone clinic. And I really didn't understand. It was just like they were giving her the high. We couldn't live together. It was obvious. Her heart wasn't with me, but it was more, she wanted me to take care of her and the baby, and she wanted to do her own thing, and I couldn't do that. I ended up moving back, to at the time my parents, they were staying in, we had like a couple apartments in Linden, and they were staying in one, and I stayed in the other. And at this point, I know that Tina's like in bad shape. So I went to my dad and I said, Dad, I really need to get married. I need to get my daughter away from her. She's, as good as she was, she's not a good parent anymore. She's in trouble. And, at the time, my dad, he said, well, you tried it all. Why don't you try your culture? And I says, you know what? Let's do it. So at the time, my dad, and we planned this trip to Lebanon. And, I was looking forward to it. I wanted my life to be right. I wanted to have a nice home for Brianna and get her away from her mom. So, when we went to Lebanon, now, I don't know how these things operate. I left Lebanon, I was 9 years old. Now, even though I tried my culture before, it just never seemed to work out because I don't know how the culture works, and you don't really get to know these people, and you don't know what their true intentions. Do they really want to be married to you, or do they just think, they think that money grows on tree here, and everybody that comes from America is just so rich, So anyway, when we went, I remember there was the day I got there, I hadn't had any sleep really in like a day or so. And when we got to Lebanon, we were staying there with my dad's cousin. And my dad said, well, I think I'm going to get some sleep. And there was something going on in the town. I don't know if it was someone had died and they were giving condolences, or if it was a wedding, something. But it was happening like in our town. They have like a home that represents like the Jahari family. There's a home for the Dekduk family. There's only like 5 or 6 families that live in this town, and they all had it's like a home, but it's like a big hall that they all shared for weddings and funerals, stuff like that. If something, instead of coming to your home, they come to this hall or this the family home. So I went there, and I remember I was a smoker, so I'm outside and I'm having a cigarette, and I remember there was a young lady that came to get these kids that were right in front of me. And at the time, I didn't really see this person, but that would be the person that I end up marrying. And so from there on, it's like they tell you, well, there's a young lady at this house, that's cute, that's not married, and there's a pretty girl that lives in this house that's not married. And so, it was kind of a trip because at the time we sent a car over there. So, I would make these or not invitations, but you would go to these people's homes, and it was like, they bring you a cup of coffee, and it's like you get to see the girl they're talking about, and you decide, well, is it someone you would like to get to know or not? So would you want to come and have another visit or not? It was kind of neat, you know. It was different, but it was kind of neat. But anyways, to get we had gotten our car, so we needed insurance. So I went to this we went to this insurance agency, me and my father, and there was this this lady, this young, well, she wasn't young, she's probably in her 30s, you know, that waited on us. And she was kind of cute, and she was from not from the Jahari family, but she was from the town, and she was Druze. So, you know, I called her up, and, you know, I said, I'd like to get to know each other and stuff. And she says, well, you know, then you come over and visit my home. I said, well, I would like us to get to know each other before I want to come and visit you in your home. So, you know, I said, why don't we go and have like lunch or something? She says, well, we don't do these things here. I said, well, you know, I want us to get to know each other. Maybe we won't like each other. What's the sense in all that, you know? She said, all right. She says, well, why don't we meet at this place? It was really a beautiful restaurant. It was right on right on the major strip, right, you know, that faced the Mediterranean Sea. So she said, meet me at this time. She said, but please come by yourself, and, you know, don't let no one know. Well, I don't drive in this country. They drive crazy, you know, and I'm still young, that I still have only been here a few days, that I'm not ready to start driving. So at the time, my father, he takes me, you know.
I heard that. My friend in Lebanon says she doesn't drive because it's insane there.
It is.
She's lived in France, and she's also lived in, you know, Lebanon. She goes, I don't drive here. These people are nuts.
They are nuts. They're very much so. So, you know, at the time, my daddy drops me off, and I start talking with this lady. You know, we end up having lunch, and I mean, we sat at this place and had a beautiful lunch, and conversation just flowed. I wasn't really attracted to her physically. You know, she was very smart and intelligent, and we had a lot in common like that, but I wasn't really attracted to her, you know, for somebody to marry. So anyways, you know, my dad, he'd come and he'd peek around the corner a couple times, you know, to make sure he wasn't seen. So anyway, about 6 hours later, you know, my father came, and so he said, how did it go? I said, you know, it went really good, Dad. I said, we had good conversation, but I don't know, it just wasn't really, nothing sparked, you know. He said, well, you know, sometimes it takes a minute. You had good conversation. Maybe you just need to do it again. So anyway, I says, well, I'm going to go all out. Now, the next day I send her a nice plant, you know, with a rose in the middle of this plant, and it said, you know, thank you for lunch. I had a good time, and I would like to see you again. So anyways, she calls me and thanks me for the food, you know, the lunch, and thanked me for the plant and stuff. So we talked, you know, on the phone a couple times, and now she says, come over to the house. Well, I said, okay, sounds good, you know, let's go meet the parents. So I come over to her house this one night, me and my father. And when we got there, her mother and father, they weren't there. So we sat, you know, and we talked. Like almost all the homes, they have like these balconies, you know, you're sitting outside, and it's nice, you know, it's beautiful there, and it's warm and stuff. So as we talked and stuff, you know, all of a sudden, her mom come home. Well, her mom walked in, and she left. So her mom sat on the balcony, and I felt like I was being prosecuted. I felt like this lady turned into this big prosecutor, and she just started with all these questions. You know, what do you do? How many kids do you have? How many times you've been married? This, that, that. Now, this girl I was talking to, she's in her 30s. She's not like no 18-year-old. So, for that country, for somebody in their 30s, that's like an old maid, Now, after I talked to her mom...
I'll make sure your wife doesn't watch this episode.
Well, after talking to her, or, being prosecuted like that, I'm like, this girl's never going to get married once they get through, with their mom and stuff. But anyways, my father, God rest his soul, he says, Sam, I'm getting tired. How about you? And I'm like, I think he felt I was, he felt uncomfortable also, So we excused ourselves and we left. And that was really the last time I talked to this girl. So anyways, I went and I was talking to this other girl, and finally, like 3-4 weeks it's about 3 weeks into it. I think the whole trip was like 45 days, and 21 days have been wasted, And at the time, I had just started a closet company. I did closet organizers and stuff. So after all of this, I said to my dad, I said, Dad, I'm ready to go home. This was a Saturday, and he's like, well, give it a chance. I says, I tried, I don't know how people get married. He said, well, what's wrong with this one? And what was wrong with this one? I said, nothing was wrong with them. My heart just didn't take to any of them, I can't help who I feel for. So he said, well, let me just show you Lebanon, and everything's going to be all right. It's okay. It didn't work out, I said, well, I really don't want to I don't want to see Lebanon. I want to go back home. I just started this business, and I'm kind of worried about it. So that night, I went to this party, and it was an engagement party for, a cousin of mine. And as we go into this party, all these people, they come to my dad and they say, oh, hey, this girl wants to know your son, and this one wants to meet your son. And, of course, my dad, look, she's cute. Why don't you get to know her? And, I'm like, Dad, I don't know. It's not happening. Well, as I kind of said that, I looked over towards the dance floor, and this girl just shined. It was like, I'm telling you, there's 300 to 400 people at this party, and it was like the spotlight is just on her. Now, and I start watching this girl, she stood out in the room, very, very beautiful, and just the way she handled herself, and, at this point, I'm bouncing from one to the other. Who is this girl, and, they tell me her name and stuff, and who her family is and stuff, so I ask, is she engaged? Is she married? As I'm talking about her, I see her on the dance floor over and over, and this guy keeps dancing with her, so I'm asking about, well, is this her fiance or, and everybody says, no, she's not engaged or anything. So I went back to my dad and I said, Dad, I don't know who this girl is, but I want to get to know her. I think she's got the key to my heart. And he's like, well, go talk to her. I said, Dad, take a chill pill, relax. As we're talking, we were sitting by the bathroom. So anybody that had to go to the bathroom, they had to come by us. And here she comes, And as she got by me, I jumped up there and I introduced myself to her, and she told me her name and stuff. And I said, hey, I'd like to get to know you, I'd like to dance with you. And she said, yeah, sure, wait till I come back from the bathroom. I said, okay. As she come out of the bathroom, I'm like walking right behind her. And she gets to her seat, and as she sits down, I grab her arm and I'm like, let's go outside and talk. And she's like, dude, I don't know where you're from. You want to talk to me? Sit down. Now there's no chairs or anything. All the chairs next to her are full. So I just kind of parked in front of her and I just started rapping, How are you? Is there a way I can get to know you? My intentions are good, this, that. And I just started rapping, And it was good conversation. And we got out on the dance floor and danced. And we, she spoke English. And she helped me out with my Arabic. So it was pretty good. Well, we had brought my car over, or we took a car over there. So later that night, she had came with her brother and her sister Well, her brother had gotten drunk and they took him home, so she didn't have a ride home. So it was like destiny, you know. It was just so it was kind of weird because I ended up giving her and her sister a ride home with my dad. And at the time, you know, I said, well, I'd like to get to know you, you know. She said, well, come over to the house. I said, okay, sounds good. You know, this was a Saturday night. Now, that night was the longest night of my life. All I could think of was her smile and those beautiful eyes of hers, you know. And what's weird is my dad, he would get up every day. He'd get up earlier than me. He'd walk, you know, he'd do his walk. He'd come back, and we had like figs and grapes, you know, in our yard and stuff. So he would bring something in, and he'd make me a cup of tea, then he'd wake me up. So this morning, my dad, he comes out, and I'm sitting on the couch. And he says, Sam, are you okay? Is something wrong? I said, I don't know, Dad. I couldn't sleep. And he's like, okay then. You know, he got all so excited. All right, let me jump in the shower. You know. And we ended up going to her house. And we got there probably 11 o'clock, and we didn't leave her home till about 7 that night. Now, Anaya, she was studying to be a nurse. So this was a Sunday now. Monday, she's going to be going to school. So she went to school on Monday, and she didn't get home till like 6:30. And man, was that a long day. I couldn't stop thinking of her. And so when I went to her house that night, I proposed. Yeah, just like that. It was like, you know, what's it going to be? I told her, I says, I think I could fall in love with you very easily. You seem like you're just a wonderful person. And, I'm running out of time. I said, think about it and let me know by Friday. So, you know, I left her house about 10:30 that night, and came back the next day, and came back Wednesday, and it was like these days waiting to see her was just driving me crazy. So come Wednesday, it was like, listen, I don't have till Friday. I said, what's it going to be, you know? And she said, yeah. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. So I think it was like that week had passed. It's Wednesday. The following Thursday, we went to the Justice of the Peace and we got married. And it was crazy because that day, it was a Thursday, and it's pretty cool. Like, you go to the Justice of the Peace, then you're handing out like pastries and stuff like that, you know, as people are congratulating you, because your immediate family, they kind of go with you to the Justice of the Peace. So the next day, it was a Friday, and it was like, wow, I'm married, you know. It was crazy. I don't really know this person, but, you know, she's just driving me crazy. I feel like a young kid with a school crush, and, you know, I'm married to her, and I really don't know crap about her, right? So that day, I didn't go to her house at all, you know, and it was about 7 o'clock. She calls me over to my aunt's home, and she says, what's the matter? I says, nothing. I says, you know, you realize we're married? She said, yeah, are you having second thoughts or something? I said, no, I'm just kind of overwhelmed, you know? It's crazy. And it was crazy. So I started, you know, working out for her visa and stuff. And we went to Syria, and 2 weeks had passed by, and they told us in Syria, yeah, she gets a visa, but you got to come back 3 months from now. I said, well, I'm not leaving my wife here. You know, I want to take her, and I can't be waiting no 3 months. So I remember the ambassador, she told me, she says, well, Mr. Jari, take your money back and try and go either to Cyprus or Canada, or go to a different embassy where they're not working like we are. You know, we're working for Lebanon and Syria. We're backed up. So, anyways, we came back, and I think this was like 2 weeks later, and it was a Friday again. And I called, the ambassador had given me the embassy number in Cyprus, and I had called over there. And I told him, I says, I'm running out of time. And I remember the ambassador, he asked me if I had the W-2 forms, and he asked for different things. And at the time, I told him I had money in the bank, and I had my corporate papers and stuff like that. So he said, you bring it, and I can get you taken care of within a week. So that's what we did. And it was just, it worked. Everything worked, I think from the time we got our marriage, and we went to the Justice of the Peace. It was about 24 days later. And after I got the visa, it was a Wednesday, and I called my mom, and she's over here, and she's telling me, "Oh, son, they're telling me that you're not gonna be able to bring her for a year, and this and that." I said, "Mom, I got her visa in my hand." I said, "We're gonna be back the following Monday. Come pick us up." So we called back to Lebanon, and we told everybody to start the invitations, because now we were going to have a ceremony. So we got married. It was a Saturday. We had our ceremony, and then where she wore the white, and everybody, it was a big thing. Actually, we had like the party was a Friday night. Then the next day was our wedding. Then Sunday we came back from the hotel, packed our clothes, and Monday morning we were on a plane coming back home. Well, when we came back home, we stayed with my mom and dad, and I remember when we got back, Tina brought Briona to the house and dropped her off, and Briona stayed with us for 10 months. Now, within this 10 months, Haiti, it was so nice having Briona and stuff. The next thing I know, 10 months later, Tina had called me like a week before. Now, I had been giving Tina $50 a week before for child support and stuff like that. Now, I was never ordered to give her child support, but I wanted to do what was the right thing for me and for Briona, and I wanted to take care of her. She's my daughter. So Tina calls and she says, you're not giving me no child support. I want some money. I said, I don't know what you're asking for money for. I have the baby. Why do I give you child support? I've had her for 10 months. So anyways, she didn't like that. A week later, I come home and Briona's gone. And I see my wife, she's on the on the porch and she's crying. And I'm like, what's the matter? What's going on? And she said, Tina had came with the sheriff and they took Briona. So from there on, it was like, okay, it's time for war. And, I took Briona into court, or Tina into court, and Tina had track marks on her arm and all the the shit that she was going through. And the judge, she went in there and told the judge that I was going to take Briona overseas and that I wouldn't give her to her. So that's how she got a court order to take Briona out of the home. Well, through it all, now the judge is looking at me like I'm a criminal and I want to take my daughter overseas. So whatever Tina says pretty much went. Even though, I'm sitting there telling her, Your Honor, she's got track marks, she's on drugs, how can you leave a baby in her hands, And the judge didn't want to have no say, but she did order Tina to go get help. And she set another date for like 2 weeks later or something. Well, 2 weeks later, Tina didn't go anywhere. and Briona was with her. The sheriff had been called. I don't know what was all going on, through it all. And at that point, the judge did give her to me, full custody, and Tina only had supervised visits. From there, Tina just bounced, from place to place, whether it was rehab or prison or county jail, and as a parent, I tried to, keep Briona in her life. I don't know if that was the right thing to do or not, but I thought she still needed to be a part of her. So I would take her to visit and stuff like that. And through Briona was 13, I think 12 or 13, and she was very mad at her mom, but she had just made up with her like 2 months before. And I remember I would go into Briona's room because I'd hear her and it'd be late. And I'm like, Briona, why are you still up, honey? You got school tomorrow. Oh, my mom's, she's going to call. I'm waiting for her to call me. Tina had, relapsed, or she had overdosed a couple times. And my daughter was worried about her. Then after she graduated, from 8th grade, Tina had came to her graduation, and a couple weeks later, we had found out that she had overdosed. Now, that was the hardest thing, that I had to tell my daughter that her mom had passed. But I was very proud of Briona because she stood very tall and gave her mom's eulogy, and she told all Tina's friends at the funeral, this is what drugs do. They kill. Don't let this be a reason for you to go use tonight. Because you see, an addict, that's all. It's like everything is a reason to go and get your high. An addict, if they don't get their medication, they're very, very sick. That's what it is. So, a year later, I find that Briona is, she's messing with alcohol and stuff. And I believe, I thought that I had talked to her uncle, Tina's brother. He lived in Tennessee, and he said, well, maybe she can come out here and stay with us. I thought maybe she just needed a part of her mom, to help her heal. So, plus, we weren't at the best of terms. And I remember I dropped Briona off at the airport, and I just turned and walked. I cried all the way home because we had been into a big fight. And anyways, we didn't really talk for a couple months. And then this one day she had passed out because she was anemic, and they called me and said that she had passed out, and we started talking. And another reason, I was mad at her when she left and stuff, but when she went over there, it was like they made me look like a monster, so they could get guardianship of her. So that's what happened. And I was very upset about it. So come January, me and Briona talking, and she wants to come home and stuff. So she came back home. And as she came back home, she was in the 10th grade now. And she started going to, she didn't want to go back to Lake Fenton, so we sent her to Fenton schools because my parents lived there. So she went to Fenton, and that's where she met this older boy. He was a senior. She's a sophomore. And this boy was a dealer, was an addict, and In her eyes, my mom, she wanted to know what it was with this drugs that kept her mom away. She thought that she was bigger than heroin or drugs, period, because Briona was a very intelligent girl, and that was how she thought of it. Because when I found out that she was using, I asked her. I said, Briona, why would you do this? You've seen your mom die of this, And she said, I wanted to know what was so good in this drug that kept my mom away. All the therapists is like, yeah, it makes sense. To me, nothing made sense anymore. This beautiful, beautiful Rose, this beautiful girl that I brought up, turned into something I didn't know who she was. She turned into somebody that I don't think she knew who she was anymore. Briona, she'd run away. She'd sneak out late at night. She would steal, lie. She would do anything for this boy and this drugs. From in 10th grade, I had called the school and I said, listen, with all this, isn't there something that you can do? Isn't there, for her being uncorrigible or something? They said, well, you missed the deadline. So come June, okay, my daughter runs away and I don't know where she's at. Now, all this whole time, I keep calling the sheriff department, because we have the sheriff out in Lake Fenton. We don't have a police force. Well, the sheriff, this whole time, he's telling me, we're working it up so we can get you in front of an attorney. Well, in July, they find my daughter, and I get a call at 5 o'clock in the morning from this police station in Holly, and they want to know, what's this 15-year-old doing with this 18-year-old boy? And I said, she's a runaway. They said, well, it's not on my computer. She's a runaway. So I go pick her up, and I take her to a hospital so they can get her into some kind of a rehab. And I think they sent her away to Carroll's or something. And, the social worker says, oh, yeah, well, she'll go there for 21 days or something. Well, 9 days later, she gets out. And then the same stuff. I mean, Briona, she, they put her on a tether. She cuts the tether. There's just so much that happens in this. And my time is getting late. I'm sure you've heard my story from here on out. But I think a lot of times, like I said earlier, we do things in our life that just comes back to haunt us. It's our finer moments and our worst moments, they never leave us, and so with my daughter, I didn't know what to do for her. I turned her to a system that I thought was there to help me, was there to help her. But in return, we were looked upon like we were criminals, like we did something wrong. We weren't looked at like she was sick and needed help. She was looked on that she was a criminal, doing criminal activities. Well, that's how I used to think too, that it wasn't in their hand. It wasn't in her hand that it was in her hands that she's an addict or that she's putting this shit in her system. But it's not. No one chooses to be an addict. No one chooses that kind of lifestyle. Nobody wants to be an addict because you see, from addiction, it makes you become a liar, a thief. It makes you sell your ass. It makes you become a criminal of all sorts. It will make you kill for your drug. That's nobody. I know nobody chooses that route. What happens to an addict? They look in the mirror. They don't know who's looking back at them. They lose their soul to the devil. That's what happens. That's what drugs make you do. All you can think about is that next high, or so you're not sick. You have to have your fix. Well, I found out that addiction falls in 10% of us. 10% of us have this addiction gene, or this brain disease. Okay? 10 of us will go to a party and we will all do the same thing. One of us will become an addict. Okay? Some are born into it. 60% are born into it. Actually, 60 to 70%. The other 30%, it's those people that you're hanging out with that try it. You know, and you just break down and do. And you get addicted that way. Another 30% is where you get hurt and the doctor gives you opiates, and it makes you kind of complete, because you see, as an addict, you're kind of inapt, and that alcohol or that drug, it gives you that euphoria that you kind of feel complete. So what happens is you get hurt, or you go get a tooth pulled or something, and they should give you something that you're going to be uncomfortable for a few days. They give you a prescription for a whole month, and you get addicted that way. And the whole thing is, these doctors, once they know you're an addict, they turn their back on you. They don't want to treat you anymore. It's something of their own doing, but they don't want to do anything. There's almost 1 million doctors, and there's 2,500 doctors that treat addiction or know what it is all about. That's the society we live in. And guess what? This is happening in everybody's home. Everybody's home. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care how big your house is, how many cars you got in your driveway. It's happening there too. Okay? Everybody's affected by drugs and alcohol. And a lot of times, people got their heads in the sand and they're saying, oh no, it's not happening here. Schools are saying, oh, it's not happening here. Bullshit. It's happening everywhere. Everywhere. And I took on this fight not to just go away. I'm not going away. And I'm going to keep talking, and, till your ears open up, until you join me in this fight, because sooner or later it's coming to your doorsteps. I guarantee you. My name is Sam Jahari. And one hand cannot clap by itself. That's why I'm asking for your help. Together, we can make a difference. Please join me in this fight. Thanks for listening today. God bless. Talk to you soon.